Cue the music. Oh, shit. That was the wrong button. Everyone's expecting this relaxing music here. Wake up, people. That's what this episode is all about. Wake the F up. No, you are woken. Our leaders aren't. Oh, yes. Welcome back. My name is Larry Gerndt, and this is Emerging Truths. Today I've got a special guest, and we're going to discuss a book called the Tayuba Prophecy. If I haven't pronounced that correctly, he'll help me. And I'll bring him on in a sec. This should be fun. We just started talking to each other before we came on, and I feel like I'm battling the music here. And right away it started getting interesting. This is going to be a fun interview if I don't hit the wrong buttons over here. How the heck are you? Roe v. Wade. Republicans are like the dog who caught the car. They're scared because they've done it. And it was just like when they repealed Obamacare. Remember, Trump came in and repealed Obamacare. Pre-existing conditions were gone. And America just screamed bloody murder. And he said, oh, all right. Well, I guess I really wanted to do that healthcare thing. But if y'all don't want to do it, then I guess we won't do it. So that's how that went. But now with this Roe v. Wade thing, Supreme Court wants to just go. They got, strike one with Roe v. Wade. Now they want to go after same-sex marriage, sodomy, and including like how you have sex with somebody, and and whether it's the same sex or not, and hearing rumors about as far as the abortion thing goes. Now they're trying to make it illegal to get assistance to get an abortion outside that fucked up state that doesn't allow it. And they want to punish that, go after that. So, why can I smile? Well, I'll tell you, I'm not smiling most of the day when I'm looking at these things. Last night I watched a little bit of Jordan Chariton on YouTube, and he's such a good reporter. And Kyle Kulinski, and I just couldn't handle it. I can't handle the news, even when it comes from my good friends on YouTube, because it is hard. But the thing that I like to remember, the thing that keeps me going and it keeps me happy, not just that I retired, that was a big part of it. But it's that I really believe this is the darkness before the dawn. And you can see things kind of going down everywhere. Our institutions are just crumbling. Our faith in our institutions is crumbling. And by institutions, I mean, the main ones, political, religious is still going strong. But everything else, the Supreme Court is retrograde now, and anyway, all of this is darkness before the dawn, and it kind of boils everything up. That's the way I imagine. It kind of boils the impurities out of the world, and so we have to go through it. But I feel like, if I can just give you a personal feeling, I'm not sure if this is true or not, but it feels like it to me, is that we'll make it through this. Navigating it is going to be really interesting. But the key to the navigation is just to be completely honest with yourself and with other people. Don't lie. because people are really inwardly, they're so tired of being lied to. They don't even subconsciously know. I mean, they don't consciously know they're being lied to, but I mean, some of us do, right? Because our eyes are open. But there's a lot of other people who subconsciously know, and they just don't want to see anything that's a lie anymore. They're looking for something real, and that's not going to come until all this madness is over. So, but hopefully, it will be over, and at the other side of that, it could very well be like the birth. You know, these could be birth pangs. I'm sure you've heard all these nice analogies before, but I really do believe that we're in good hands, whoever they are. And by that, okay, I'm being vague. I should be specific. My belief is that probably Jesus and maybe a bunch of other masters are kind of in a council, and they're just, making plans. I don't know where the hell they are. It's been over 2,000 years. I mean, if I've asked this question before, right? I'm going to ask it again. And then I'll bring on my guest. But what happens if the ETs come and they bring their technology, which we've all heard about, this healing technology that they have? And I believe it. I've heard it from too many sources, different disparate sources that say med beds are real. And I've even heard that we have some of them, but not that we would know how to reproduce them, right? But this isn't Denny's coffee, by the way. It's just a cup. But it is coffee. It's Pete's. Did I finish that thought? So, darkest before the dawn, we're going to watch the craziness come out, and just the way to stay sane, I think, is try to be a little bit lighthearted about what's going on. Try not to hate the other side, because, really they feel the same way about us. And it's really just a big misunderstanding because we don't know each other, the right and the left. But on the bright side, the one bipartisan issue I know about is the UFO issue, UAPs. So that gets bipartisan support. Everybody wants to know, are we alone? And we already know that we're being kind of bullshitted so far by the Pentagon, and pretty much everybody knows that. So it's going to be very interesting. Oh, I have to mention two more things in the news that came out. Thomas Fessler covered both of them very well. Go out and check the last couple of his shows. There's an amendment that came out that is being put forth by one of our representatives that specifies that basically we don't like the job that's being done so far by the UAP task force, because we haven't gotten anything from them. So so they laid out this whole new system that they want to do, and they're going to be using different people. But the most important thing is that there's a new amnesty amendment. I mean, there's a new amnesty, a legal allowance now for anyone who wants to tell the truth, and they won't get prosecuted. So, in other words, if we ask someone within the military to testify to a UFO sighting. This was actually the language that was in the bill. I'm not sure if we're allowed to ask, just anybody in the military, but but we are allowed to ask. Congress is allowed to ask and demand the Pentagon that anyone who has seen a UFO is allowed to come and describe what they saw. Like if they were on board the naval ship or whatever. And that's exciting because there was a an amazing, there was an amazing sighting. I don't remember the details now, but it was by the Navy, and someone on the ship, probably more than one person, saw this football field-sized triangle come up out of the water next to them, and then just shoot into the sky. And they saw this. So, I mean, if you get that kind of testimony happening, and that cannot be prohibited by law now. So they can still keep their classifications the way they are for a little while, but the ice is starting to break, hopefully. Now, I'm going to switch gears a little bit and talk about our guest tonight and what we're going to be covering. Sam is a Facebook friend who alerted me to a book called the Tayuba Prophecy, and it's from somewhere around 1987, or at least that's when the event occurred. Now, what event? Well, a man was abducted by a strange-looking race of, I think, 9 foot tall was the average, hermaphrodites, and his main contact was seemingly a female, but you know, they're hermaphrodites, and don't let that distract you. I'm not trying to ridicule the book. That's just a detail that does bear right away. And they took him to their planet, which they designated, they call it Category 9, because it's the most, there's 9 categories of advancement, according to this woman and this alien. And she lives on the most advanced, and they're the happiest and the most harmonious. And so apparently there's not 7 steps to heaven, but 9. But because I say that because she said that the next step from that planet is just merging with God, the God consciousness, and just being an eternal spirit. And there is not more information on that. But we, according to them, are down at level 1, like the worst, the most disharmony. It's like a prison planet. It really does feel that way. Now, Sam asked me to read this because he's pretty excited about it. He has known the material for about 6 years now, and I asked him tonight if he's excited about it, and he is still. So this matters to me, and it shows me that he takes it seriously. And I read it myself, and what we're going to go through tonight is kind of I'll give you a general synopsis of what happened, and I'll give you some of my complaints and some of my worries about whether it was really real or not. But I will say this, I consider myself a pretty good judge of not only written text, but people giving verbal testimony. But written text can be even harder. And I can only tell you that I'm sure that the author believes that this happened to him. And if he believes it happened to him, it did. It's not just a hallucination. But then I'm stuck with some other problems that I see where I would not expect an extraterrestrial to. This account is very different from so many others of its kind. And, the things that she says, it's been noted by others, are somewhat at odds with some other things that, other contactees have been told. But I frankly think that there are ETs out there who sometimes just play with us. They maybe lie to us, but not maliciously. I know that Sam just said before I came on the air that he, and I'll bring Sam up in a minute, that he believes the ETs are well intentioned, and that they would not have been so successful as a race if they had not also been spiritually as well as technologically advanced. So I wanted to challenge him on that, although that's always been my belief. And I hung on to that one for a long time, and it still might be true. I just worry because, well, I don't want to get too long-winded here. Let me bring Sam on, and I'm new at this, so I'm just going to kind of there he is. Hi, Sam.
Hi,
Welcome.
Heather. Thank you.
Sam, what's your last name again?
My last name is Chong, Chong.
Samuel Chong. Yeah, it's
Yes.
good to meet your acquaintance finally. We've been talking, and just before we came on the air, you made this statement, and I wanted you to ask me. You said, I think the ETs are well intentioned, and as evidence of that, you would say what?
I would say the ETs, most of the ETs are well intentioned, and if they don't have the spiritual advancement or the technology to come to us, then they wouldn't have been able uh, to do the things that they have been doing. What I mean is that if civilization is only advanced technologically, but not spiritually, then the civilization wouldn't have been able to last for a long time. So I think technology and spirituality have to be combined together in advancement in order for civilization to last
Yeah.
long. Yeah.
Actually, you kind of convinced me there. What I was going to challenge you on was I was going to say, well, what about let's say some aliens wanted something from us, like, and they made a deal with us and just said, we'll give you these spaceships and these, free energy devices, and we'll take what we want. And so now, Earthlings in their current bad frame of mind, right? We're in a terrible state right now. I mean, not the general population of working people. I think those, other than the political world, I think I want to blame the leaders, but the leaders are what's running the world, and they're making it miserable for all of us. And those people are in a horrible state of mind. And if they're given technology like this, couldn't they just go out into the galaxy, and even though, it wasn't their technology, but somebody gave it to them, couldn't they go out there and wreak havoc and just like,
Mhm.
you know,
Um, and this is something that I really I'm very curious. I'm very interested in as well. And I know that certain governments they do have certain technologies that were originated from another civilization or ETs.
yeah,
Uh, However, I do think that the category 9 or maybe the ETs with higher advanced civilizations, they wouldn't allow us to use those technologies in a way that would be harmful to us or to the people in the world. For example, if just like to say we have a technology that would destroy the entire planet, and I do believe that they would prevent us from doing that. Uh, And in that sense, you may also say we do have the nuclear war, nuclear warheads, the nuclear bombs, but that doesn't really destroy the entire planet unless we use it in a very uncivilized way. But I do think that there's a progress of technology in which we are going to discover things that are going to be harmful to us, but we have to learn on our own how to use those technologies that could be harmful to us.
Yeah.
And we have to be responsible as adults. We have to be responsible to ourselves.
Yeah. That makes sense. I totally agree with that. I think you got the right idea. And it would certainly seem to buttress your point by looking at what happened at the Malmstrom missile site. I don't know if you heard about this, but a UFO appeared back in the 60s at the Malmstrom missile site. And this was not the only one. This has happened at missile sites all over the world with the underground missiles. You know what I mean? Now, a UFO showed up there, and it was a bright red, huge object, and it shut down the 10 missiles that were under this one little site's command in a nice little sequence. Bing, bang, boom, 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 boom. It's like they were showing you, hey, not only can we shut them down, but we can shut them down in a rhythmic fashion. And so that would seem to indicate that they're telling us that they know how to shut these things down. And so they're sending us a message that they could intervene if we were to try to use these things. Now, they didn't originally. And I wonder, do you think that maybe they wanted to let us use it once? Or do you think that they thought it would have been terrible, like the Tayuba Prophecy says that we're going to be getting into, that, it would have been terrible if the Nazis had taken over the world because they were totalitarian. And so do you think they allowed us to use the nuclear weapons to stop that, but now they're not going to ever let us use them again?
There's a very interesting detail in the book, Tayuba Prophecy, in which it says that in reality, during World War II, Germany really was the country that first had the atomic bomb. They invented the atomic bomb.
Oh, that's
But
right.
the ETs from Thiaooban, they prevented Germany from being the first country to use the atomic bomb.
Oh,
They sided with the United States, a country that's more democratic, more truthful to serving the people than a totalitarian regime like Germany at that time.
right.
So they sided with the United States, helped the U.S. government to deploy the bomb. In Japan twice. The author actually asked Tao, the character in the book, don't you think that the having the two bombs in Japan that killed so many people, too many people? And then the response was that if the two atomic bombs weren't deployed in Japan, there would have been like 3 times more deaths during World War II. So they chose the lesser of the evils.
Yeah. And
The
we have to
lesser of
take
the
their word. We have to take their word on that. But
yes.
it could very well be true. Yeah. So, as to whether the ETs are evil or not, I just want to share with you that all of my life, I have always believed, sort of as you do, that they couldn't. There has to be some kind of a natural mechanism. When you think about a planet, like here we are on planet Earth, before we can develop the technology that will take us off the Earth in it, before we can naturally evolve, like, because on our Earth, evolution is not natural, right? But maybe that's the case everywhere. Maybe every planet has extraterrestrials who have come in and kind of accelerated our evolution somewhat. But still, there is this barrier. There is planet Earth, And then the nearest other planet is a long ways away. Well, the moon is the first jump, but there's nothing really there. Of course, maybe everything is there inside, but that's another story. But there is that barrier. So I see that as a sort of a physical representation of a law that says that a law of the universe that says you must advance both technologically and spiritually beyond a certain point in order to get off the earth. So that's just a thought I had.
That's actually exactly right. What I learned about the author was that he gave a lot of lectures after he wrote this book, and he
Oh,
said that if we were able to go to the moon, I mean, we did once, but if we go to the moon again, the aliens, the ETs, would have prevented us from doing so
I
because
heard
we
heard
are
that.
just not ready spiritually. We are fighting against each other, like the U.S. and the Soviet Union, former Soviet Union, they were fighting against each other. Even nowadays, we have a lot of wars in the world. We cannot make peace of ourselves. How can we make peace in the universe?
Right.
So they wouldn't have allowed us to go land on the moon again. So that's what happened. Actually, the what happened about the moon was at the first landing. What I learned was that they discovered some kind of alien ET base on the rear side, the far side of the moon, and actually that has some kind of uh, validity and information that is consistent to the book Tayuba Prophecy, because according to the book, and there was another planet called Arima X3. That planet had a very advanced civilization, and because of overpopulation, they wanted to migrate to Earth. So they used the moon as a base for migration. So they established like a base on the backside of the moon, and they were transferring their people to Earth. And they did transfer a lot of people to Earth on the on a continent that actually sunk in later times. The continent was called Lemuria.
Hmm.
So I don't know if you're familiar with that civilization Lemuria, or
Yes.
the continent of Mu. And so they established a very nice civilization over there. But then the continent sunk, and then like 150 years ago, on their planet, 100 like Arima X3, they had a nuclear war. So that basically wiped out their population.
Oh,
So right now on the back side of the moon, the far side of the moon, you could see the base that they established a long time ago, but there shouldn't be like a lot of ETs over there anymore.
right. Well, what have you heard about the secret space program?
Well,
I
I
mean,
know
have you heard of it?
I've heard some secret space programs in the past, but I don't have any kind of any way to prove that they really exist.
Have
Do
you
you have
heard
any?
Have you heard some of the witnesses, like Corey Good, um, and other people who claim that they were in this 20 years and back program?
Um, I learned about the Philadelphia experiment and also other things, but for Curry Good, I don't have any way of verifying that whether
Yeah,
that's true or not.
yeah. Okay. Well, I asked because it it's a very controversial subject, but according to the witnesses, and there are many, and this is what worries me about it, that it might be true, because there are so many witnesses who are saying the same thing, and they're not copying each other. They're not trying to be big stars. They sound very genuine, just like this author does in this book. He really sounds genuine. And they're saying that there's a program that the government is operating in which they use time technology so that you go off, they take you from your home, and you go put 20 years into this secret space program and go to Mars and other planets and planets unknown and fight aliens. I mean, it sounds so ridiculous. It's not the kind of universe I wanted to picture because they're describing, the Draco being the dominant, angry, very powerful and huge beings who just sometimes pit two civilizations against each other for the fun of it. Seems like. And anyway, that this secret space program is supposedly protecting us from the threats and we'll just never know because they're so secret. Well, I don't know how to explain this, but I just don't think that that's real. Is it a psyop?
I agree with you. I don't think that's real. I don't have any, like in legal terms, there's no foundation to that. There's no basis.
There's no
Like
proof.
even though there are a lot of witnesses, but there's no actual evidence
Right.
that you can say that this actually happened or occurred.
But
But I
here's but
do.
here but here's the thing now, if you go by what you just said, imagine the abduction scenario, let's say when it was just starting to become known. And various people from all over the country, unrelated to each other, started describing their abductions. People would not be able to say, "Oh, you're all making it up," because there's just too many people that are saying the same thing. And so then, but I mean, if they did try to say you're all making it up, then these people might have just gone back into the shadows and never. And now we know the truth that it really is real, but it's because so many different witnesses spoke about the same thing. And I'm seeing that in the space program, and I don't know how to explain it. So, but we can leave it there because I think we both agree that it doesn't seem real, but something is real about it, and that might be that it might be some sort of a game or a psyop by our government. Who knows? But these people are not really being hurt by this, and so I guess that's the bright side of it. I don't know of anybody being hurt by it. So, but anyway, let's try to get some of this Tayuba. We might have to go. We might have to go 2 shows for this because I think we've already burned what, 40 minutes, something like that. Anyway, we can go. I'll give you my brief synopsis of. I just finished reading the book, so I'll try to give the viewers the short. And then I'd really like you to fill in the blanks because you know it even better than I do. Like some of those great details that you had just inserted were really helpful. All right, so this guy gets abducted. I'm really going to be bad on details. What's the name of the main character? Tao?
Tao, yes.
Tao. And I think we refer to her as a she, right?
Yes.
Yes, and she is her. But their whole race is hermaphrodites. But do they still have a gender? Or
they don't have a gender, just hermaphrodites.
Okay. But it felt comfortable for him to refer to her as she, and she seemed to like that. And the details as to how he got abducted. I'm not interested in mechanics anymore. But once they got together, she began to speak to him, and she took him onto their ship, and they went to her planet, and on the way he got to see a lot of neat technology, and she spoke to him about many things by way of introduction, and then they got to the planet, and she showed him what it's like to live on that planet, and it was absolutely beautiful. Everything was in harmony with everything else, and it was the colors were overwhelming. He had to wear a mask to to filter out, like sunglasses, because the vibrations were so stunningly bright and beautiful. They had, of course, all the expected technology that an advanced race would have, but they were also very in tune with nature, and the nature there was beautiful, and it included animals, and not just intelligent, sentient. I mean, not just what do you call us? I mean, we're just higher animals, but these they had all the whole range of animals there, and the sunsets were stunning. The I will mention one thing I thought was really interesting was their abodes, the dokos, because she described that they were egg-shaped and pretty large, like a gymnasium or something. And some of them were stood on their base, the heavier base of the egg shape, and pointing up, and some of them were on their side. But these were the abodes for their people. And when you would fly into one, if you were visiting, you always go through the where there's a light shining, because you can fly into any portion of the doku, but if you go visiting and don't enter where the light is shining, you might knock over some furniture and stuff. I liked that. That was a nice detail, and it makes sense. And so they all had their lights at like designating the front door. There were no roads here because they could fly everywhere. Levitation, but mostly technology assisted flight. They could move their own bodies, but not very fast in the air. Where I had, first of all, some of the complaints that I had was that I mean, I've heard these kind of things like, oh, your planet is in terrible shape, your government is so terrible, and your people, and I'm so tired of that, because I don't know how we're going to get out of it, and I don't think that we need to be preached to at that level without acknowledging that there are some moneyed interests in this world that are operating. I mean, right out in the open. I'm not saying it's hidden, but they have to be overcome before we normal people can do anything. And I know Tao would not disagree with that, but it just felt like, hey, don't blame me. I'm not the one who's doing it. Don't act like we're all just a bunch of fuck ups. It's these people that we have allowed. And she made the good point that this is the point I really liked about her, is that she made the point that we are way too willing to give our power away to the people who don't care about us, and we always thought that they would. But we're finding out that they don't care about us. In fact, because now, and when you look at the political world, they're bought off by their donors. That's just a fact now. The donors are running the world. Those are the moneyed interests, and we're gonna have to throw the whole lot out. And I mean, I don't know how to get there. Maybe there's a smooth way to get there, but seems to me that we don't need another speech from and the things that she was saying, it's just common sense, but I guess that's what bothered me the most, Sam, is that she was saying stuff that, like, I would have said back to her, I already know this. Most of us already know this, Tao. So how is it that you're telling me this is going to fix anything? Give us a way out of this. Go ahead, Sam.
Yes, the book really gives a lot of solutions. First of all, we have to act together, nonviolent resistance, just like Gandhi promoted in his earlier years. We have to act nonviolently, and we have to use the power of inertia to act together, just like Archie's Planet. In the book, it described how the totalitarian regime was changed basically overnight by concerted actions of all the people together, having like a unified uh, strike. And when the people begin to have a strike, the 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 power behind the scenes, the power that is the families that control the entire world, the financiers, they lose the most because they have all the interests in all the big companies and the factories. But we lose less because we only earn like basic salary. So if we get together, we lose little, but they lose big. So if we unify ourselves and we have a concerted action by having a big strike, they would cave in. And also, they give another solution, which is how to run the whole world. A good example would be the civilization that Lemuria had, and they had a system more like they elect like a few number of people, like I believe it's seven head of the state, and they have meetings, and they don't get paid a lot. They
Right.
just get basic salary, and they're selected by the people through a very interesting process. And I think you know it better, but I think it's a very good model that we could imitate.
I agree. That's a good point. It's really going to come down to like a chess game, like who's got the power. And I think what you just said was that we, the people, have the power. We just have to take that step of, first of all, coming together so that we can agree on a strike, right? And the way we come together is to recognize that each other is not the enemy. It's the ones above us in government and beyond. So if we can recognize that and stop fighting with each other, that will be the moment where we could, it's almost like the banking system. Remember how they said that, it's all based on trust, right? If everybody went to get their money, it would crash. That would be the end of that banking system. The bank would fail. It's the same principle here, where if the people get together, and that was not expected by the few who are in control, they will be outnumbered. They will lose everything, and we will lose some, but not as much.
Right.
And then we will gain our freedom and the ability to start something new. I wish that we could have help with this. Tao isn't offering any help.
Well, we have to help ourselves. I don't think they or any ETs are going to interfere because there's a very strict universal law that says that we have to learn how to survive, how to suffer, and how to learn how to live in the world, how to live a life. So we have to really get ourselves together and not to rely on external help, like the help from the ETs. And it's interesting you mentioned that the financier of the banking system because in the past I really didn't believe in all those conspiracy theories. But now, the more I look at this world, how the world is run, and the more I believe that there are really like a few families behind the scenes running the entire show. The author Michel Desmarquet told me privately that Tao, the ET, in the book, told him that there were 12 families in this world behind the scenes running everything, and I also accidentally learned about the secret societies. And they call the lodge, Lodge. And before I thought that the Illuminati and the Freemasons, those are just conspiracy theories. But when I really learned about a book that I translated from German to English, the more I realized that there's a lot of truth in the secret societies such as the Illuminati, how they influence the world politics, the governments. And if you look at today, all the wars are created actually not, they're created in a very strange way, in
Uh
which
huh.
it benefits the military, complex, military-industrial complex, and also the benefit of the few people at the top of the food chain, and I think uh, people have to realize that, and I hope that people can have this kind of awareness and consciousness to really act and not just to stay idle.
Would you repeat that last point again? I want to hear that again.
Yeah, and people really have to have this kind of knowledge and consciousness to know about everything, know how this world is really run, and we have to really act and not to stay idle.
Okay. So, yeah, I didn't tell the folks, but you're a translator. And
Yes.
so that something you learned during your translation was something about these conspiracy theories, and even you mentioned in passing. I'd like to get back to that. You spoke to the author of this book.
I did. I read this book and I was shocked at this content, especially the part about the stories in the Bible. I know you're going to get into that, but
Yeah.
I was shocked about the stories that it says about Jesus Christ and also Moses. And I decided to visit the author because in the postscript, Michel Desmarquet, the author, says there are more incredible things that he was not allowed to write in the
Oh.
book.
Oh.
I was extremely curious about that.
Yeah.
So I decided to pay him a visit, and I visited him twice
Oh, wow. In person.
in person. Yes.
Fantastic. So, so tell me what is his current state of mind when you were speaking to him? How does he seem right now?
When I visited him, that was about 4 or 5 years ago,
Hmm.
and he has now passed away.
Oh, I
But
didn't.
when
Okay.
yeah, but when I visited him, he was kind of a very sharp person, and he told jokes all the time because
Oh.
he was depressed. He was
Oh.
depressed with what the world was at that time,
Oh.
and so. But when we got into topics of what happened in the planet Thiaouba, he got really serious. He said that the people there were treating him like how we treat like a pet, like a dog. Like they kind of laughed at him when he was surprised at their abilities to levitate
Right.
or to move things around. And he was startled, and they were looking at him and just like looking like a startled dog or something like a startled pet. They were laughing at him because his reaction was so unique to them, so new to them that they seemed to have a lot of fun with him, his reactions.
Right. But not at his expense.
Not at his expense.
Right.
And he really wanted to learn how to levitate. He wanted to learn all the things that they could do over there, and he said, teach me how to levitate, teach me how to disappear, teach me how to do this and do that." They just smiled and they didn't respond to him, indicating that even if we teach you how to do that, you wouldn't have been able to learn how to do that because it's going to take a long time to practice.
Hmm.
Speaking of levitation, and I really did a lot of research, and there are people who nowadays could levitate on Earth. There's a video shot by a magician called Dan White. He visited Nepal and visited a monk who showed him how to levitate.
Hmm.
And as a magician himself, he couldn't figure out how he did it. But the monk seemed to use like meditation and then just kind of neutralize the gravity of the earth and then started to levitate.
Amazing.
Yeah,
That's a very rare skill, I would think.
yeah. So
And
there are a lot of things written in the book that are verifiable, and a lot of facts are very specific.
yeah, you
Uh,
mentioned that. I just want to reiterate that you mentioned that to me when we first talked. You said have you read this book? And I said, no, I haven't. And we got to talking about it, and you told me that there is verifiable data in this book. So what are you talking about?
I was referring to a lot of interesting facts in the book. For example, it talked about the tomb of Jesus Christ in Japan, in Shingo Village, Japan, how Jesus Christ were actually two separate beings. The Jesus born from Virgin Mary couldn't perform miracles. He went to India and traveled to Japan, died over there. And the Christ, the Jesus Christ, who could perform miracles only after the age of 30, was actually a ET, shape like a ET that was the whole intention, whole purpose was to preach love and spirituality. And he died on the cross and resurrected after 3 days, just to show that there is life after death and there is reincarnation.
So, so you mean it wasn't to pay for people's sins?
We wouldn't have to, I mean, this is according to the author and according to the book. This is just a concept by the church. I would say maybe the Catholic Church, just to just to induce people to listen to them, the clergy and the priests.
Now, did you say that? Did you say that? Let's see. That he was in that the Jesus that went to India was not the Jesus that performed miracles. Which how was that?
That's correct.
So
That's
there was.
correct.
Okay, tell me that again.
If you read the Bible, you can see that Jesus Christ only performed miracles after the age of 30. Before the age of 30, he was smart, but he couldn't perform miracles.
Exactly.
I mean, if you use common sense, if you use your intuition, if you use your gut feelings, if a person like Jesus Christ could perform miracles at the age of 30 or after the age of 30, he would have been able to perform miracles before the age of 30, maybe the age of 29, or maybe 25, or maybe 20 when he was young
Right.
too.
Right.
But there was no record of it. But
Hmm.
there was record of Jesus going to India. And there is a tomb of Jesus Christ in Japan, in Shingo Village, Japan. It was very specific. And the author also mentioned that there's another tomb next to the tomb of Jesus Christ, which is the tomb of his brother who died in China, unfortunately. And such specific information the author couldn't have known in when he wrote this book in 1987 or something, or 1989. When he wrote this book, he never visited Japan once he never visited Japan, and he wouldn't have known this fact. Shingo Village, Japan is very specific information. There was no internet back then.
Yeah. Right. That's a good one. Yeah. I mean, it's possible, but I don't. I'm personally. I'll just say for the record, I'm not. I don't really believe that. I don't think he went to India because you know. First of all, why if he did, why wouldn't that have been mentioned? The only thing that's mentioned is that at age of 12, he was dazzling the professors or rabbis, I should say, with his ability to read and understand the scripture, seemingly very, very well. But you're right, he didn't do miracles until he started his mission, which was after the baptism and after the test out in the desert where he was tempted by the devil to join up with the devil, and the devil would give him everything in the world because everything in the world belongs to him. That's what he said. And when Jesus said, "As a I give my life as a ransom for many," I wanted to mention that for the first 1,000 years, that's what people believed, that he was a ransom to the devil, because the devil had control of the world, and so that somehow he, by letting himself be crucified, he was making a payment to the devil to get us all out of his clutches. And that actually sounds, I don't like that either, but that actually sounds more believable than what they have us believe today, which is that what they have us believe today is that we're so horribly evil just from birth that God doesn't want anything to do with us. But if his son will lay his life down on the cross and shed his blood for us, then somehow that's him vouching for us in the kingdom of heaven, and now the Father is okay with us coming into the kingdom. This is such baloney that I'm just really embarrassed that anyone could ever have believed this. And so I was delighted to find that in this book, the depiction of Jesus is just how you described, which is that he was one of them. But I think he appeared very human. You're not saying that he appeared human, are you? Or are you?
I mean, the ETs from Thiaouba, they could change their shape. They could change their look, appearance into a human being.
Yeah, but that's stressful. But
Yeah,
that takes effort, right?
that takes efforts, yes.
I don't think he would be altering his shape. That he's all about truth. So why would he be? Well, of course, it's not a lie to change your shape and be, if that's, it's like putting on a different pair of clothing. It's not a lie, but yeah, I find that hard to believe that he was anything other than human looking. Everyone understood. I mean, you remember the verse where, you might remember, where he was making some pretty big claims, and so some of the unbelievers around there that knew him were saying, "But isn't this the son of the carpenter? Isn't this the one that we know? We know him so well. How could he be the Messiah? Or whatever." But that shows you that they knew exactly who he was. They'd known him all their lives. That statement right there makes it sound like they'd known him all their lives. So it was like and he also said, a prophet has no, a prophet is rejected, by, a prophet is not without honor save within his own town. In other words, to do the math on that sentence, a prophet is respected everywhere except in his hometown, because in his hometown everybody knows him, and they all think, well, this guy couldn't be like channeling God all of a sudden, could he? And so they don't believe it, but it happens, and their own familiarity blinds them to it. But yeah, so getting back to this book, I was very pleased that Tao didn't say anything about paying for sins. That was if I would have saw that, I think I would have lost it. But no, she
Me
did
too,
not.
me too.
She did not. She basically, and this is what's coming into clarity for me now, not just from this book, but from everything. There's something cooking in me, and something is coming into clarity. And that is that the story of Jesus is, it was announced as if it was just the most wonderful thing. The shepherds, and I can't wait I think we're going to have to do 2 shows, Sam, because we haven't even gotten to the the Jesus stuff in this book. And it's fascinating. But anyway, just our normal understanding of what happened is that the shepherds in the field saw this apparition of angels, and the angels were declaring that, don't fear. We're here to declare peace on earth, goodwill towards men, and we bring tidings of great joy, which shall be to all men, and peace on earth, goodwill towards men. For today, this day is born unto you a Savior. And now in the book, in this book, what happens is that light, that the Star of Bethlehem, appears then and leads these shepherds to where Jesus was, which was not far away. And that makes a lot of sense to me. And Tao said that the whole story about the three wise men was actually grafted onto the Bible from some other source. And I found that believable. She didn't say it was a lie. She said it was grafted. I've seen other examples of grafting in the Bible. There's a very important graft right in the beginning of Genesis, where somewhere around Genesis 2, verse 3, I think, is where the splice point is. And it's right between the original story of creation and then the new story of creation with Adam and Eve. So it's like they're telling the same story twice. And people asked why that was. Well, because there's a splice point right there. So there's two different texts. And scholars are all in agreement about this, that they know that these two texts were spliced. So I like that idea that anyway. So my point was that I know I can get long-winded, but the shepherds, they get this announcement, and the announcement sounds really good. It's like if we heard that announcement right now, the whole world would breathe a big sigh of relief, because it sounds good. It sounds like everything's going to be okay, and we're just, for the Jews, they interpreted it as, deliver us from the Romans, but really they were making a bigger announcement than that. They were saying the whole world is going to get way better. At least that's how it sounded. But instead, we crucified him. And it's as simple as that. I mean, whoever sent Jesus, he was sent to do a job, and he testified to what he knew. And every chance he got, he took a physical situation and turned it into a spiritual metaphor, because everything was about the Spirit with Jesus. He made every effort, and we just crucified him. And that's the way it is. Now, religion has taken that and, twisted it with some justification based on the way the text is written, but not enough justification to come up with this idea that we had to pay God for our sins by crucifying Jesus. It's the most ridiculous, but I guess it's a pathetic attempt. I don't know what. It was a pathetic attempt maybe to make sense out of something they didn't understand. How could God allow Jesus to be crucified? Oh, well, you see, the reason he allowed that is because he needed Jesus' blood to pay for us, for our sins. That's just so ridiculous. So I think
this is more like a control mechanism by the Catholic Church. They
yes,
want to control the people.
Yeah. I think Tao said that the first 300 years were pretty good after Jesus, and then it just started, the Council of Nicene and the revision of the canon, removing the Book of Enoch, and and I also think that they went through, and Paul Wallace is another person like me who studies the Bible with the ancient alien theory in mind, and he believes that the Bible was altered to make the same name for everyone divine. Like the ones who created us, they were actually a plural, the Elohim. He thinks that they went and made it look like these same beings are the ones that created the universe. The same ones that created us created the universe. And that's just an oversimple. That's not the truth. The truth is, the Elohim was an extraterrestrial race. They genetically engineered us, and that kind of thing is done all over the place. And we're an abused species. We're an abused species. I'll add that too, because we don't even have our own God coming down and giving us help. So either we've been abandoned or he's just doesn't care that we don't seem to get any help now. And I have to go back with my faith and say that good people are in charge of us. Good beings are in charge of us. So I have to trust that we have to go through this hell. But my complaint is that this is too much hell. People are going through way too much. I mean, with all the diseases, a wife watching a husband die of cancer, having to go to the hospital every goddamn night, and he gets worse and worse and dies. And this is happening all over the place. Our genes are shit, and our governments are shit, and everything is shit, and people are suffering. And I'm an empath, and I can't stand it. It's more than I can stand to even look at. So, yeah, what you're chomping at the bit there? What do you want to
Yeah,
say?
yeah. This actually relates to the meaning of life. We live in this world just to experience, just to learn, and to experience spiritually. So if we have sufferings around us or even ourselves, we are going to experience and feel it. And then when we die, we are going to review our life and see how we did, how we responded to the challenges in life, and learn the lessons. The main lesson is to love unconditionally, unconditional love, and also to care for others, not to be so selfish and not to be so not to be so egoistic, and we have to experience and to really feel and experience the life in order to learn from it. When we die, everything is going to become very, very clear. There are a lot of near death experiences or stories like that, and how they how they saw like the people who they did, what kind of things they did to them and how they responded, and and they could feel when a person dies, he or she could feel the other people's feelings. For example, if I beat up a person, I when I die, I would be able to feel the feelings of the other person,
Yes.
and all the emotions, all the physical feelings and things like that. So that's how we learn, how we review our life. There's a life review after we die. So we really have to know this,
Yes.
that life is a learning experience. We have to learn, and we have to really to learn how to grow spiritually.
Yeah. I agree with that. And I've been saying that for years, that no pain, no gain. It's kind of like this is a school of hard knocks. And there's the the thing that I'm frustrated with is that if I was God or the Lord or I don't mean to use religious terms, but if I was in charge of the human race and I was, sort of a godlike being, I would try to at least tell them that there's going to be that life is hard, but there's going to be I guess he did. If you believe the Bible, Jesus did say that there's a reward coming. So, and there is a life review, and I definitely believe so much in the power of that life review because, like you said, during that life review, there is there is the there is the feeling of the other person on the other side of the transaction from you. And you get to feel what you did and how you made them feel, whether it be good or bad. And that just clears everything up. It makes you understand. It's not a punishment. It's just like, okay, the charade is over. You're in heaven now, and we're going to show you how you did.
That's right.
Yeah. All right. Well, listen, I think we should cut it here because I think what we want to do next time, if you would you be willing to come back?
Yes, definitely. Yes.
Okay, because we barely got into this. And that's a good sign because you and I are enjoying our conversation just without even hardly getting. And I think the audience was able to follow because I don't think we really brought up anything that was out of context. So that's good. Next time, folks, we're going to get into the interesting part where Tao discusses the name of the chapter is "Who Was Jesus," and we kind of covered it here, but there's some really interesting details also about Moses, and it's interesting that she said both Jesus and Moses were one of them because I had always felt that Moses was like a precursor to Jesus in a way, you know. And the other thing that I totally before we hang up here. One other thing that I thought was really interesting that I agreed with. Oh, I forgot what it was. So, okay, we'll end it here. Samuel Chong, thank you so much for coming. And thanks for agreeing to come back. I think we all really enjoy the next episode. So it was a pleasure.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
All right, folks. I'm going to see if I can close his window now. Let's see here. There we go. And I want to say goodbye to you. Mm-hmm. To you. Mm-hmm. And Samuel, you're not supposed to be on anymore. let me hang you up. Okay, I'll talk to you later, okay? All right. That was fun. Okay, folks, so let's see. No. I want to put on this. I want to put on the final music, and I got to find out where it is. And I guess I'll probably be editing this part out. It's not that. It's not that. All right. Let's just go with the original, which is Morning in the Meadow. Woof. I guess I was pretty nervous. I'm always nervous. It was good for me. I don't really have any friends, and that was fun. Sam actually reached out to me. Anyway, wife says, "Get that mic out of your face." Work on that. Thanks for coming, guys. And I'll see you next time.